All right, let's talk about a leadership idea that kind of flips the script on everything you probably learned about management. It's called servant leadership. And, it's all about ditching that old school, top-down command and control style and instead focusing on one thing, creating an environment where your team can just absolutely crush it.
But before we dive deep, let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Could you, the manager, actually be the biggest bottleneck on your team? I know, it's a tough question, right? Because even when you have the best intentions, that traditional way of leading can create all these sneaky problems that just grind everything to a halt.
Okay, so let's unpack that. This is what we're calling the bottleneck problem. We're going to look at the hidden flaws of that classic command and control style. The one most of us were probably told was the only way to manage.
And right here, this is the absolute heart of the difference. It's compliance versus commitment. See, command and control is all about compliance. Did you do what I told you to do? But servant leadership, that's about commitment. It's about creating a team that wants to do the work, that's genuinely fired up about getting a great result. So what happens when you're just focused on compliance? Well, you get a whole host of problems. If every single decision has to run through you, guess what? You're the bottleneck. The second you step into a meeting or, heaven forbid, go on vacation, everything just stops. Your team stops thinking for themselves, because why would they? They just think, the boss will figure it out. They lose that sense of ownership, and you miss out on all these amazing ideas from the people who are actually doing the work. The whole system becomes totally fragile and completely dependent on you. And that, my friends, is a recipe for a disengaged team.
So what's the fix? Well, it's this whole idea of servant leadership. It's about taking that traditional pyramid and literally flipping it upside down.
And the core idea here is, it's simple, but it's a huge mind shift. Your primary job as a leader is to serve your team. Yeah, you heard that right. It's not about telling them what to do every second of the day. It's about being a bulldozer, clearing the path, knocking down obstacles, and just creating a space where they can be brilliant.
I love this quote because it just nails it. It's a complete 180. You stop thinking, my team works for me, and start thinking, I work for my team. You're no longer the king at the top of the pyramid getting all the service. Nope, you're the foundation at the bottom, holding the whole thing up. Okay, so serving the team sounds a little fluffy, right? What does it actually mean? Well, a massive part of it is hunting down and destroying impediments. An impediment is just a fancy word for anything at all that's slowing your team down. Think about it. Annoying paperwork, a key piece of software you can't get access to, another team that won't get back to you, all that stuff. Finding those blockers and getting rid of them, that becomes your new #1 job.
All right, so theory is great, but how do you actually do this? Let's get practical and talk about how you can put this into action, like tomorrow.
So if there is one thing you take away from this, let it be this. It's a single, core behavioral change. You have to stop being the answer person and start being the question person. Seriously. Instead of giving solutions, you start asking questions. And that one little switch is what builds a team that can solve its own problems, instead of a team that just depends on you for everything. Okay, let's make this super concrete. Imagine a team member comes to you and says, hey, this third-party API we use is totally unreliable. Now, the command and control response, the default for many of us, is to jump in and fix it. Okay, I'll call the vendor. You guys use the old system for now. See? You took the problem away. But the servant leader does something different. They turn it back to the team. Interesting. What options have you thought about? What do you need from me to solve this yourselves? It feels different, right? You're not just taking over, you're coaching. You're forcing them to think, to own the problem, and that's how they get stronger. And for those really big, hairy problems that the team can't solve themselves, there's a simple playbook. First, you got to make the problems visible. Get them up on a whiteboard, a Trello board, whatever. Then, you prioritize. Which one is causing the most pain? Step 3 is huge. You take ownership of that blocker. It's your job now. Escalate it, fight the political battles, do what you got to do. And finally, keep the team in the loop. Show them you're fighting for them. Man, that builds so much trust, you wouldn't believe it.
Okay, I can hear some of you thinking, this all sounds nice and fuzzy, but does it actually get results? Fair question. Well, let me tell you about Maria. She's a perfect case study of what happens when you make this change.
So here's the before picture for Maria's team. She was a classic command and control manager. Her team was only hitting about 60% of what they said they'd do in each sprint. The feedback from her team, they felt totally micromanaged. And Maria, she was putting in 60-hour weeks, just running on a hamster wheel, trying to keep everything from falling apart.
And this is where it gets interesting. She decided to change. Now, this wasn't easy. She had to fight every instinct she had to just jump in and give the answers. But here's the crazy paradox. The moment she gave up that tight grip on control, the project outcomes actually got better. It turns out the collective brainpower of an empowered team is way, way smarter than one person calling all the shots.
And look at this. The proof is in the pudding. That shaky 60% sprint completion rate, it shot up to a rock-solid 95%. 95%! They weren't just delivering more, they were delivering what they promised, consistently. That's a game changer.
And it wasn't just about output. Check out the human side of this. We're talking about their net promoter score. Basically, how much do you like working here? And it more than doubled. It went from a pretty miserable 4 out of 10 all the way up to a 9. People weren't just more productive, they were genuinely happier coming to work.
This table just puts it all together so clearly. Their velocity, how much work they could get done, went way up. The quality was insane, with bugs dropping from 8 per sprint down to basically 0. And here's the kicker for all you managers out there. Look at Maria's hours. She went from a burnout-inducing 60 hours a week down to a normal 40. This isn't about sacrificing yourself for the team. It's a system where everybody wins.
So, as we wrap this up, I want to turn it back to you. I want you to really think about this. What is one decision, just one, that you make for your team right now that you could hand over to them? What's the one thing you could delegate tomorrow? And then ask yourself, what would they need from me to feel confident making that call? Because starting with that one small change, well, that could be the beginning of something really amazing for you and your team.